Got it. Here's your full-length, highly detailed, realistic, first-person scary camping story with a clear ending and no supernatural elements. It's written in straightforward language with no dialogue and over 3,000 words in one go. I'd never been camping alone before. Not really. I'd gone with friends in high school and once with an ex-girlfriend a few years ago, but I never had to plan the trip, never had to carry everything myself, never had to be responsible for every part of it. I don't even remember why I decided to do it. I think I just needed to get away from everything. People, noise, work, screens. I was burned out and wanted to reset my head. I figured a weekend alone in the woods would do that. I picked a spot in northern Michigan in the Huron National Forest, a few hours' drive from where I lived in Detroit. I read about this little backcountry site online. Nothing official. Someone mentioned it in a forum post from years ago. Said it was secluded about a mile off a dirt road, next to a small lake with no name. No trailheads, no signs. Just GPS coordinates and a vague description of how to get there. That was part of the appeal. I didn't want to be around anyone. I left Friday afternoon. My pack was heavy, probably too heavy for one person, but I'd rather bring too much than not enough. I had food, water, filter tablets, tent, sleeping bag, extra socks, first aid kit, headlamp, fire starter, a knife, and a small hatchet. I brought a book, a journal, and a flask with just enough bourbon for 2 nights. I didn't bring my phone charger on purpose. The dirt road off the highway was rough. My little car wasn't built for it, but I made it slowly. I parked in a patch of flattened grass someone had probably used before. I double-checked my GPS, threw on my pack, and locked the doors. Then I started walking. There wasn't a trail, just a faint depression in the brush where others might have walked before. It twisted through the trees, and every 20 feet or so, I had to stop and look around to make sure I hadn't gone off course. It took maybe 40 minutes to get there, though it felt longer. When I reached the lake, I stopped and just looked at it. It was maybe 200 feet across, totally still, like a piece of black glass. The trees around it were tall and thick, blocking out the wind. I didn't hear anything but the occasional bird. No sign of people. The clearing was just big enough for a tent and a fire pit, though the rocks around the pit were scattered. Someone had camped there before, but not recently. I dropped my pack and stretched my shoulders. It felt good to be alone. I set up camp slowly, laid out the tent, put up the poles, staked it down. I got the fire started early, not because I needed it, but because I wanted the comfort of it. The smell, the crackling. I boiled water for dinner, one of those freeze-dried meals that always tasted the same, no matter what it said on the packet. After I ate, I sat by the fire and watched the sun go down behind the trees. The lake turned from silver to black. Still no wind. No bugs, either, which was strange for early September. The air was cool, dry. I sipped from the flask and listened to the fire pop. I went to bed before 10. The ground was hard and uneven, but I was tired enough to fall asleep quickly. I didn't hear anything during the night. I don't think I moved at all. I woke up sore but rested. Saturday was quiet. I walked around the lake, took photos with the little point and shoot I brought. I found a deer skull in the brush, clean and white, like it had been there for years. I sat by the water and read. I wrote in my journal. I made another fire when the sun started to go down, ate another freeze-dried meal, and drank the rest of the bourbon. No sounds but trees and fire. It wasn't until I zipped up the tent that I noticed something that felt off. It was small, barely anything. I remember pulling the zipper closed and realizing it felt harder to pull than the night before. I thought it might have been the cold. The zipper teeth had maybe shifted or something. I didn't think much of it. I put on a hoodie, crawled into the sleeping bag, and shut my eyes. Sometime in the middle of the night, I woke up, not from a noise, but just suddenly awake, like my brain had kicked me out of sleep. I lay still, trying to figure out what was wrong. It was cold, the kind of cold that bites through layers. I pulled the bag tighter and waited to fall asleep again. That's when I heard it. Not loud, not dramatic, just a sound. A soft crunch, like something stepping on dead leaves. Then silence. I listened hard. Another crunch. Then nothing. It could have been anything. A deer, a raccoon, even a branch falling. I told myself that. But then I heard it again. Another step. It wasn't close, not right outside the tent, but it was nearby. Maybe 30 feet away. Maybe less. One step, then silence. too slow to be an animal. I stayed perfectly still. My breathing got slower without me meaning to. I didn't want to make a sound. I didn't have my knife in my hand. It was in the side pouch of the tent. I thought about grabbing it, but I didn't move. Another crunch. A pause. Then two more. It circled. I realized that after a few minutes. The steps weren't moving toward me. They were moving around me. A few steps. A pause. A few more. Always slow. Always with space between them. The kind of walking people do when they're trying to be quiet. I lay there for what felt like an hour, barely breathing. Then nothing. No more steps. Just the wind in the trees. I must have dozed off again. When I opened my eyes, the tent was lit by pale morning light. My back was sore and my head was pounding from the bourbon. I sat up slowly, unzipped the door and looked outside. Everything looked the same. My fire had burned down to ash. The air smelled clean. I stood up, stretched, and walked around the site. No prints. No broken branches. Nothing disturbed. I told myself it must have been an animal. Maybe I dreamed it, but I felt weird, off balance, like my senses weren't lining up. I checked my packing gear. Nothing missing. The zipper on the tent didn't seem stiff anymore. I made oatmeal on the camp stove and ate it standing up. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I planned to leave that day. I'd only wanted one full day alone anyway. I started packing up around noon, slow and distracted. My eyes kept going to the trees. I didn't know what I was looking for. Shadows maybe. Movement. That's when I noticed the rope. It was hanging from a branch about 20 feet up, near the edge of the clearing. I hadn't seen it the day before. It wasn't thick rope, more like twine or paracord. A piece of it dangled down, frayed at the end, swaying slightly. I walked over and looked up. It had been looped over the branch several times, then knotted. It didn't make sense. I'd walked that part of the clearing the day before. I would have seen it. It was eye level, clear as day. It hadn't been there. I didn't touch it. I just backed away and finished packing. I got everything in the pack, doused the fire, checked for trash. I looked at the rope one more time before I left. Then I turned and started walking back to the car. It felt longer going out than it had coming in. I checked the GPS twice. I stopped to catch my breath more than I should have. I kept glancing behind me. Nothing there. Just trees. Just trail. When I got back to the car, everything was exactly how I left it. No scratches, no broken windows. I unlocked the door, threw my pack in the back seat, and got in. I sat there for a long time before starting the engine. Driving back felt strange. Too fast. Too loud. Like the world had turned up the volume. I didn't listen to music. I didn't stop for food. I just drove. When I got home, I unpacked everything in the living room. I laid it all out, checked each item. I don't know why. I just wanted to see it all, know it was all there. That's when I noticed it. The knife. It wasn't in the side pouch where I'd left it. It was in the main part of the pack, wrapped in my sweatshirt. The blade was clean, but the edge looked slightly different. A scratch maybe, or a nick, like it had been used. I sat there staring at it for a long time. I didn't sleep that night, or the night after. 2 days later, I called the Forest Ranger office for that region. I told them I'd seen something strange near a lake. I didn't mention the rope. I just said I thought maybe someone was camping out there illegally. They said thanks, they'd send someone to check it out. I don't know if they did. I never followed up. I haven't gone camping since. Sometimes,